shirts for my daughter and I, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
No, not yet, no. July 25th, 2024, meeting of the Columbia Association Board of Directors. My name is Bill Santos. I am the chair. Just two quick heads up. This meeting is being streamed both live audio and video, and will be available on YouTube after the meeting if you would like to review it, or if you'd like to tell friends about what happened here tonight. This meeting is hybrid. We'll have both people virtually attending and people attending in person in the room here. Lastly, if you have a cell phone or other similar device, please silence it or at best turn it off. We don't want to have anyone's testimony or input in the meeting being overridden by an errant phone call. So thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll start with roll call. Let's see, we'll start with Colin.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
All right, Mike is online. Karen.
Here.
Reg.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Sky.
Here.
Ashley.
Here.
And Chris.
Virtually present.
Thank you, sir. All right. And I am here, and Mr. McGinnis, are you here?
I'm here.
Everybody's here. Microphone, there we go. All right. Let's see. Next thing we need to do, timekeeper. Colin, can you help us out with the time? Very good.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Next, announcement of closed meetings. We did in the last month have a few closed meetings. Let me make sure I have that piece of paper. Here we go. Okay. On June 27th, 2024, the Risk Management Committee held a closed meeting. Those in attendance were Sean, John, Sky, Ashley, Mike, James Hamilton, and Susan Krabby. There was no vote to close the meeting. All meetings of the risk management are closed. Closed meeting ended at 6:43 p.m. and the reason for closing was HOA Regulation 11B1114, Roman numeral et IV. IV is consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. We had another closed meeting on July 15th, 2024. Those in attendance were Sky Anderson, Reg Avery, Karen Emery, Chris Fuchs, Michael Liebersuch, Eric Greenberg, Sean McGinnis, Paul Rader, Bill Santos, Colin Sullivan, and Ashley Vaughn. The meeting was closed at 7:04 p.m. Those in favor were Mike, Sky, Chris, Colin, Paul, and Bill. The one that was against was Eric, as I read this. The reason for closing, once again, same homeowners association, section 11B111. Reasons I, and IV. Essentially, those are discussions with matters pertaining to employees and personnel, consultation with legal counsel on legal matters, and the ever-popular consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. That one. We had a closed meeting on July 23rd, 2024. This was the audit committee. Those in attendance: Jim Young, Tim Redmond, Reg Avery, Karen Emery, and Paul Rader. The vote to close was unanimous at 7 o'clock. Reason for closing, Homeowners Association Act 11B111. I, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, and IV, consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. Let's see, the meeting was ended at 9:59 p.m., got in just before 10, and that's the closed meetings. Thank you all for listening to that. That's the toughest part of the meeting. I'm not very good at speaking, so thanks again. Moving on, we have approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Reg has moved.
I'll second.
Who's the second? Paul? Thank you, Paul. Do we have any discussion on the agenda? Any opposition to the agenda as written? Okay, so that's unanimous there. Okay. All right. Got that done. Columbia update. if I could take it to you, Mr. McGinnis, Sean?
Yes,
Thank you.
so we have a few videos to show the board about goings-on the last month. The first is Books in Bloom. Going back to mid-May, CA once again partnered with Books in Bloom. If you haven't attended this event, this literature festival takes place in Colorburst Park every year. As we mentioned last month, our team moderated one of the most well-attended authors, Amanda Montell, and our street team was also out to share our mission and impact with those who come out to enjoy this literary festival.
You said Books in Bloom?
Books in Bloom.
The next one, I'll be right back and see if I can find that picture.
Okay. The AAPI Fest. On the same day as Books in Bloom, our team was also in Symphony Woods for the County Festival recognizing Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We worked with the Liaoning China Sister City Committee to bring a great table to a wonderful crowd. Here's a small glimpse of that event.
You're not that we have here, so I'm sorry.
I don't think so. This is what was up the other day. Oh, I could be wrong. Sorry about that. Let me see.
Just give us a moment up here. Everybody talks to one of
I
yourselves.
apologize. I pulled up the latest one. Okay, let's see.
Go.
Sorry about that.
All right. Who's the surprise country in the medal count this year? I'm thinking Brazil is going to be strong this year in the medals, and Australia. Southern continents, they're going to overperform. Yes.
All right. Sorry
Yeah,
about
talk
that.
about something.
The first video is the July 4th event, right? Is that up there? All right. I apologize. Earlier this month, we once again were pleased to co-host the annual July 4th celebration and fireworks at the lakefront. Tens of thousands of people came out to enjoy the festivities. The Baltimore banner previewed the 4th, specifically focusing on the intentionality behind the performers this year. As you can see in the President's Report and in today's packet also, CA provided an updated version of the interactive resource guide to help the public navigate this popular event. The guide had more than 18,000 views. It was a massive undertaking from planning to day-to-day of preparation to day after cleanup. A huge thank you to our CA team members who had a role in making this safe and successful event for everyone. And a special thank you to the parade organizers in River Hill and Longfellow for having me at their parades. It was great, really enjoyable in that whole event. So for me, it was a really great experience. So with that. Next is the world's largest swim lesson. Every year, the CA Aquatics team participates in the world's largest swimming lesson. This global drowning prevention event serves as a platform to help communities build awareness about the fundamental importance of teaching children to swim. Our team provides free 30-minute swim lessons to anyone who'd like to take part. This year, dozens of swimmers, young and young at heart, participated with our wonderful instructors. Here's a look at the event.
We are here for the world's largest swim lesson. It is an internationally run event with a focus on water safety. This is the 15th anniversary of World's Largest Swim Lesson, and Columbia Association has been participating for most, if not all of them. One of the reasons that it's so important here at Columbia Association is that we want swimming to be accessible to everyone, providing them free of cost with a focus on water safety. Knowing how to float, knowing how to get out of deep water situations, being safer in water in general. We don't want people to feel like they've aged out of learning how to swim. It's delightful to see someone challenge themselves with something that intimidates them and gain a skill that they think they couldn't ever have.
All right. It'll be interesting to see how many of these participants end up in the CNSL citywide meet that goes on this weekend. So maybe we get to track that. Next is Go Green Movie Night. Our award-winning sustainability and invasive mitigation teams are constantly doing incredible work throughout the community. You can see some of those accomplishments in this year's annual report. We love when those teams get to share their expertise with the community, and earlier this month, that's just what they did. CA hosted a Go Green Movie Night at the lakefront, inviting people to come out and build your own native seed packets before a screening from the one and only Mr. B. The reception was wonderful. Here's a small part of that. All right, next is the Ice Dogs. Some of you may have seen this next video, but others maybe not. This past Sunday, the Columbia Ice Rink hosted its annual open house where members of the community could experience the facility in the off-season, board their Zamboni, and participate in some fun activities. And I'm sad I missed this because in all my years of playing hockey, I've never been on a Zamboni. And it's like, I wish I'd known about it. This month also happens to be Disability Pride Month. We thought this would be a great time to highlight the fact that Tom Connors and his team at the ice rink regularly host Oakland Mills High School special needs students and has hosted the Washington Ice Dogs tournament for the past 3 years. These are just a couple of efforts that demonstrate CA's commitment to serving people of all abilities. This video shares a bit more about that partnership with the Washington Ice Dogs.
The Columbia Association's philosophy is to create safe space and welcoming environment for everyone, everywhere.
It's community building. Hockey really is for everyone. Sports are for everyone. Making developmental disabilities feel part of the community and included is really important.
Once a year, we host the Washington Ice Dogs. We invite them to come on down, and they spend 3 hours a day hosting teams from other areas, and they all come up and just have a wonderful day playing hockey.
There's a lot of value in having our tournament at the Columbia Ice Rink. They always make space for us. Every year, we ask for some time at the end of the season in order to have the local friendly. And the Columbia Ice Rink is always accommodating and always works to make sure that we fit into their time and their schedule.
It's wonderful when people say, we just love it here, and this is like our second home.
They get to belong to something, get to feel part of a team, get to go to school and say, my ice hockey team won their game this weekend. I scored a goal. And hearing that some of their core memories are being part of our team just tells me that we've made a place where they feel like they belong.
All right. Next is DuPont Brass Music Workshop. If you remember, we welcomed DC-based brass band DuPont Brass to the lakefront for our Juneteenth this year. In addition to their performance, CA was pleased to support a music business workshop that a few members offered for free to young people in our community. Let's check it out.
DuPont Brass. They're here today to put on a music business workshop. The workshop is for teens in the area that just want to know more about the music business. We've done this for over a decade at this point, starting out just being a busking band playing, at the Metro for tips, and we were able to develop ourselves into a full-fledged performance ensemble and entertainment company. So we have a whole bunch of wealth of knowledge, and we would love to share this information, answer questions, and just provide that support for the up-and-coming generation that want to do this too. When I was growing up, I would have loved to come to something like this where people are sharing information about the music business and how to get started and how to be successful. So anyone out there that wants to do something, it's never too late. Get up and do it. If you're young, now is the time. If you're old, now is the time. Just, go follow your dreams, because that's all the work we're doing. So we just want to inspire others to do the same. Our performance will be on Juneteenth. We're really excited to perform in Columbia and really just take part in this special event. We love all different kinds of music. It only makes sense that you resonate with a large group of people when you love so many different types of art that bring people together.
All right. Next is prepare for success. While going back to school is the last thing on kids' minds, our CA staff has been working hard. So you know by now that while our team is committed to serving this community, we also like to have a little fun. For decades, CA has worked with Prepare for Success to support their annual school supply drive. We have bins at several CA facilities and all 10 village centers, and we'll collect donations through August 19th. So please let people know. Instead of just urging participation, the team wanted to pull in a familiar fuzzy face.
Hi everybody, we're at the Long Reach Tennis Center, donating school supplies to Prepare for Success. And I have a very special friend here to help me. Hi Elmo, are you ready to count some school supplies?
Hey Miss Danica, yes, I'm so excited.
Great, let's get started. First we have crayons. Elmo, how many crayons?
I know this, it's 24 crayons.
24, that's right. Next, markers. How many markers?
10 markers.
That's correct, Elmo. Into the bin they go. And notebooks. How many notebooks? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4 notebooks. And there's plenty of other school supplies here in the bin. You can donate your own at any CA facility. All right, Elmo, time to say goodbye.
Bye, everybody. See you at school.
All right, and lastly is a Lake Kit drone shot. It's Lake Appreciation Month, so we wanted to end on a peaceful note, a sweeping video of one of the 3 lakes CA works hard to maintain and manage every day. Oh. It's. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
He's gonna get it.
okay. It's really short. It's like,
I can't wait. Well, actually, I can. I don't have a choice. That's right, yeah.
Out of curiosity, what else do we do with these videos besides showing them in the board meeting?
on our social media.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, so they've all been displayed, but we just try to present them to the board. Yeah, so
Perfect.
they've been
Yeah.
seen all over.
I want to be
Actually
sure.
on the blog site, so if you go on the CA website, there's a
think there's a blog you can find there.
Awesome, thank you.
If you subscribe to the newsletters, I think they pop up in that.
Yeah.
The 3 newsletters. You can subscribe to my newsletter and the links are at the bottom.
So I get the one that has like what's going on with CA.
There's a monthly one, a weekly one, and I can't remember what the third one is.
We'll get you access to all of them.
Yes.
I'll send you a link.
Okay.
It's so high quality.
You can tell it's got the picture of the lake.
It says a little something about the drone camera resolution exceeds the corporate boardroom.
How about, in the interest of time, we'll save this for the next meeting?
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
That's fine.
Thank you for all of those little pieces about Columbia. It's great with Tom and Alicia and Mr. B making a difference out there in the neighborhoods.
That's great.
So, all right. All right, we shall move on our agenda here. Next up on the agenda is resident speak out. We have, I believe, 3 members, 3 residents who would like to speak out. Just quickly, 3 minutes for an individual, 5 minutes for a group. First up would be Sharon Boys.
Stand over here. Good evening, board members and Mr. McGinnis. Thanks as always for this opportunity. I have a lot to get to tonight. May 9th board meeting was troubling. One person commented, "It's like the mom swooped in and took over with division and demands." You can watch the video and form your own opinions. There were votes cast and members appointed to committees that night in an open public meeting, and in the end, without objection. May and June meetings came and went. So you can only imagine my surprise when I attended the audit committee meeting for Speak Out on July 8th and found almost every member of the board at that meeting. Although Eric, Karen, and Reg were all appointed without objection in May, the board chair claims he, on his own, without talking to any other board members, unilaterally decided, based on information that he hadn't shared with anyone, to replace Eric. I have no idea what information was presented by who between the board meeting on June 27th and the audit committee meeting on July 8th. But the board did not vote for a king. They voted for a chair who said he hadn't had a chance to discuss this information and his sole decision with the entire board yet. I say the entire board because even though the chair claims he didn't discuss this with anyone, Eric's replacement was told something because he was there. The audit committee knew something because they objected to Eric participating as a member. There was major disruption with the board members in attendance speaking out in support of the chair, and the meeting was shut down. It was a complete waste of time and money, and I was embarrassed for our community in front of our new president. This reminds me of when we woke up one day to find the committee charters had been changed overnight. This is the 5th board that I've spoken to now, and none of them has ever adopted all 633 pages of text in Robert's Rules of Order. And this cherry picking and using one rule to suit your needs is just plain wrong and must stop. Learn them, adopt them, or don't, but don't abuse or misuse them. The 10-member board is a governing body. The chair is a facilitator who organizes and runs the meetings. They're not the sole decision maker. And if anyone here feels differently, I think the community has a right to know what your agenda is and what your plans for our community are during your term. Okay, moving on. We learned of some overlooked easement documents at the last meeting, and I very much appreciated that the community was given an opportunity to comment on them. I sent mine off and quickly received a response. Unfortunately, the easements are an afterthought. The work has been performed, including a stream restoration. The paperwork, as stated, appears to be wrapping up loose ends. I had many questions that I feel the board could use as a template for questions on some easements in the future. There was one question I asked that was not answered. My question was, how will the board ensure that land will not be developed without proper easements in place beforehand in the future? It is these types of actions that continue to erode the trust and confidence of the community in CA and the developers around here. CA is a homeowners association, and we want to know when the community and our quality of life and the environment are going to come first. You can't keep replacing our remaining fragments of forest with more buildings and packing more people in a finite amount of space without consequences. More people means more schools, more roads, and how many times can we expand the hospital? These projects increase all of our taxes and are creating urban heat islands throughout our community. During this time of record heat, I'm just as upset about the results of the horrific Longfellow Stream project as ever. How dare someone think deforesting our stream corridor during climate change, species die-off, and undeniable global warming was a smart or kind thing to do to us? I experienced what felt like a 20-degree difference driving from hot, sunny Longfellow to shady, cool Longreach the other day. I don't remember any of my neighbors being warned about that consequence of this project. But it's not just the stream project. I've heard about unnecessary tree removal in Hickory Ridge, Owen Brown, Longreach, and in Longfellow, a place where every mature tree matters. How many of you knew that CA has been spending approximately $1 million a year for years on tree removal and pruning in our open space? At the same time, we spend money planting new trees. This is the opposite of what climate scientists say we must do. I am so grateful for our new CA president, for his fresh eyes, and for him to take a look at some of the stuff that our community and our forested stream corridors have been through under the old leadership while we work on the budget and the strategic plans. The status quo may be the easiest, but that doesn't mean it's still the best for CA, our community, our wallets, and our environment. Thanks again for this opportunity. I hope everyone has a fantastic summer break, and I'll see you in the fall.
Thank you, Ms. Boyes. Karen?
Yeah, Sharon, can I ask you a quick question? So what would you put into the strategic plan, we haven't finalized that, to ensure that CA, when it's doing its work in open space and things like that, doesn't exacerbate the effects of the climate emergency?
Wow, that's such a great question. Well, first you have to preserve what we have. Every mature tree counts, and I can send everyone a video on just the importance of a mature tree versus many dozen saplings. I think we need to fund the rain garden program at this time. We need to continue to remove the invasives. We should be planting a multi-story biodiverse canopy to replace a lot of what's been lost. We should have a liaison that works with the county to create a Green Streets program and see what kind of grants we could qualify for some of these programs. And we should look into a more pervious substrate for when we're replacing these bike paths around here, and look into replacing some of the asphalt in some of our parking lots with bioretentions and pervious pavers for compact cars, like 1 or 2 aisles. I mean, there's just so much that we could work into the strategic plan to be, true leaders in what we're doing here. We could really be a role model for other communities, but we've got to preserve what we have.
Ms. Boyes?
Yes.
I appreciate all this information, but your answer has almost exceeded your initial testimony.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you did say. We got to.
No, I completely understand. You know me.
Yeah, okay.
Give me a half an hour, I'll take it. So, thank you very much. See you guys in the fall. Have a great summer.
Absolutely. Mr. Bob Dover.
Hi, folks. Speaking as an individual, I've been continuing my work to obtain and review documentation about the outcomes of the Longfellow Stream Restoration Project, and have another observation regarding the CA staff's presentation to this board on April 25th. As a reminder, the staff made the following statements about the project during that presentation. No improvement in water quality, no improvement in ecological function, substantial issues with invasive plants, and enormous challenges in trying to reforest the 10-acre project area. The only positive outcome that the staff cited during that presentation was a claim that the stream had been stabilized and erosion had been reduced. To support that claim, the staff showed this chart, this little chart right here was projected, and explained how the precise match between the as-built stream bed elevations and year 3 stream bed elevations demonstrated that no erosion had been happening, and therefore the stream was successfully stabilized. I've reviewed the entire report in the appendices, and it quickly became apparent to me that this chart that compares the as-built and year 3 elevations only on a 200-foot segment of a 7,000-foot project. If you look at the chart for the entire 2,800-foot length of that segment and read the fine print, you will find that this 200-foot segment is actually the only segment that does not show erosion. It is very much not representative of the overall project area. Instead, there were 4 areas of erosion identified upstream of this segment and 2 areas of erosion identified downstream of this segment. The erosion in those areas was substantial enough that the report flagged them as quote-unquote functioning at risk. Also, the contractor admitted that the as-built survey for the town center tributary of that project was so flawed that the results had to be thrown out and cannot be used to reach any conclusions about erosion or stream stability on that tributary. That's in Ecotone's report. Because this chart is not representative of the rest of the project area, it cannot be used as evidence that the Longfellow project has been, in some measurable way, successful. It hasn't. I'm happy to sit down and go through the full charts anytime anybody's willing to give me more than 3 minutes to show it to them. I've got them right here. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dover. Any questions? And once again, thank you for coming out tonight. Now who we have here? Inuk Young, maybe online? I don't see anybody. All right. All right. Okay. I think that's everybody. All right. Thank you all for participating today. We're going to move on from resident speak out to the consent agenda, which has the draft minutes from the May 18th, 2024 retreat, May 23rd, 2024 Board of Directors meeting, and the June 27th, 2024 Board of Directors meeting. Have any objection to the minutes? All right, so those are passed. All right, moving on to old business. First item on old business, request from Howard Hughes for easements. Sean?
Yes, so this, I think this is the 3rd viewing of this topic. Yes. There's been a lot of discussion. I think the board needs to make a final vote for approval of the easements.
Okay. Going to ask the board for a motion, and this can either be for the entire easement package, or there are 3 recommendations in the packet here if you want to do the resolutions individually.
I'll go ahead and move to approve all of them.
I second it.
All right, so Mike has made a motion to approve all 3, and Sky is seconded. All right. Do we have any discussion? Sky, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank whoever it was, whether it was HRD or Jeremy, for putting in 2 pages of Q&A in the packet for tonight. These questions came in after the last meeting, I guess, and I think it was just wonderful that they were added, so thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right. I'll just jump in and say I had a chance to walk the property in between our meetings here, and I'll say the boardwalk in between the parking lot and the gravel parking lot is really a nice walk. Everybody should visit. It's a pretty nice area there. So, Good. You've been there too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just a
cool.
few times.
All right. All right, so we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to approve all three? We got Ashley, Paul, and Mike?
Yes.
Yes. So we got Ashley, Paul, Colin, Mike. I'm sorry, Sky, yes? All those opposed? Reg, are you opposed?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Reg.
Did you get Chris also?
I'm sorry, Chris?
I'm going to abstain as I was not here for the last couple of meetings.
Okay, Chris will abstain. And so that's Reg, Karen, and Eric, you are opposed. Want to get that on the record? All right.
But why aren't you doing a roll call vote like we usually do?
Okay, we can do that too.
I mean, you don't have to do it now, but I just feel like that would just have been so much easier.
Karen, I appreciate the comment. I got a little
That's fine.
lost in the paperwork here as a chair here. We could do that. So we'll just roll call it really quick. Once again, Chris.
Abstain.
Abstain. Ashley.
Yes.
Yes. Sky.
Yes.
Yes. Paul. Yes. Reg.
No.
No. Karen.
No.
No. Mike.
Still yes.
Still yes. Eric.
No.
No. Colin.
Yes.
Yes. I'll vote yes. So that is 6, 3, and 1 abstention. Motion passes. All right. So you got that done here. All right. Second item in old business, budget schedule for FY 2026.
Yes, Susan Krabbe can speak to
Susan?
We presented this at the last meeting, and it's unchanged from that discussion, and I was not aware of any questions or follow-up work to be done on this, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but
Okay. We'll start with Karen this time.
Susan, I just have a question about your reach out. When you're reaching out to the community and things like that, like what is the time? I don't have everything for me. What is the timing for that? And
so we'll do it at least twice and probably 3 times. So the first time will be shortly, within a couple weeks, through the September meeting date, or just up to that, the week before, to get pre-budget input, and then we'll do it with the draft, draft like initiatives and major components of the budget in November when we do our public information session, and then another public survey opportunity when the draft goes out in January.
one of my concerns is making sure that we get really good cross-section of Columbia feedback.
Yeah, I'd love to do that too.
So I don't know if you have any plans for how you can make sure that happens.
We're working on it.
Okay, that's good.
Sky, and I'll get you, Eric.
Yeah, last year I made the suggestion that we go to a 2-year budget time period. And Susan, you said that the stability is not long-term enough. You wanted to wait a couple of years. I was wondering if perhaps not this year, but next year, if you could budget for 2 years, but do that every year, sort of like the audit committee does. They prepare, I think, an audit plan for 2 years, but they look at it every year so that they can fine-tune the most recent plan in the future. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You look quizzed.
No, I'm not. I think that's the way we did the 2-year budgets previously. We would prepare 2 years, and then the second year would be a review of that second-year document, and then the board approved the second-year one independently, but we would sort of build them at the same time with the review period. So that is, I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, I think that's what we would want to do.
Okay. And I think you did a really good job in the board packet of telling us when you're reaching out to the community, and you mentioned the information sessions and some surveys, so that really stuck in my mind. Good.
Okay. All right, just, Eric, I'm going to get to you, but a quick note after Eric, I would like to get a motion and a second so we can officially take a vote on this. So Eric, please, if you will.
I'll motion to start.
Okay, Eric will motion. Do we have a
I had
second?
my hand up before.
Okay, so Chris seconds. Okay.
Can I ask my question?
Hope I just didn't lose my place in the queue.
What?
She can ask the question.
Ashley,
Great.
please ask. Yes.
I just needed a refresher. Is the village input separated out from general community input?
It will be this year, and in the survey, we're going to make sure that we can see theirs separately if they do the survey.
Okay.
But if they don't, it's separate anyway.
But the village, all of the village's input would be put together versus community, like resident input sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome, thanks.
Eric, thank you for waiting.
No problem. So one administrative question and one other question. So first, I see board votes and final board votes. I don't see a specific date attached to those. Do we have those dates?
In February?
Yeah, there's one in February and one looks like it's either November or December.
Yeah, in November, no, it's in December, would be the actual vote at that one meeting in December to give us the kind of green light for the draft. And then the February one is the February board meeting.
Okay.
Similar to last year.
Okay. So the question I have is, there's a vote for emergency cash reserve funding. I know last year that usually came at the last meeting of the year. So has that vote got moved up?
No, this is, so this would be to budget for it in FY '26. What you vote for in April is to actually fund it in FY '25.
Okay. And the second question I have is, I see two votes for operating capital budget, membership rate guidance, and annual charge rate and cap. So can one vote override the other vote? Because we're voting on this twice. Or at least it's listed.
Yeah, so you're going to give us the guidance for the draft in December and say what you want in the draft as far as the annual charge rate and cap. But to really vote for it in final, you would do that in February.
Okay.
All right. Chris, Mike, do you have any questions on the schedule?
None. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I don't have anything on the schedule. What was the motion made, though?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the schedule.
Oh, okay.
We got the second. I was looking for a second while you were raising your hand, and I missed your hand, so my apologies. So, all right, having no further discussion, I guess we'll call the question. We will start here. Colin?
Yes.
Yes. Eric? Yes. Thank you. Michael?
Yes.
Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Yes. Reg?
Yes.
Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Yes. Sky?
Yes.
Yes. Ashley?
Yes.
Yes. Chris?
Yes.
Yes, and I will vote yes. That is unanimous. Thank you all. All right. On to the strategic plan. All right. Sean, if I can toss to you one more time?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
I have a short presentation. Yes. All right.
Okay.
And then in your packet, you saw a schedule similar to Susan's for the budget schedule. And it's just a schedule for the strategic plan finalization, but I've kind of put this little presentation together to kind of go over that in a little more detail. All right, thank you.
While we're getting set up, at our last meeting, we asked staff to put together a schedule so that we can get our strategic plan finalized for a vote by the end of the calendar year, and this is what's been prepared in the interim, so thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. So we'll get right to it. This short presentation will cover the implementation phases that we created, the senior leadership team. All of us got together to kind of put this together, the implementation schedule and that alignment with the board meetings, because I know the board has indicated they want to try to finalize it by January, and those meetings need to line up, and then what it's going to take for final approval. First phase is really review, engage, and compile data. This is just pulling together all the information. There's a lot out there that's been created via the consultant that was in place, and we're hoping that this will happen August and through September. This includes reviewing strategic planning information, as far back as the 2014 strategic plan, the 19 plan that was finalized, the 2024 draft strategic plans, reviewing those. Also reviewing data along with that, the surveys, the stakeholder interviews, and particularly the board retreat, which I think seems like I was not there, but it was very productive and what I saw from that. So there was a great strategic planning exercise that went along with that garnered some great information. And also, we want to interview individual board members. There's some board members on the board currently that weren't involved in the process to begin with, so we want to get their input on the strategic plan. So I think that's really important. Reevaluate the community stakeholder input to see if anything was missed, and also the same with the internal staff and stakeholder groups internally. So that's phase one. Like I said, that goes from August to September. Phase two is to outline the mission and vision and strategic focus areas. The board has also made it clear that they'd like to redevelop the mission and vision statements for review. So that's something that we'll put together. This is the September to November timeframe. I'm giving these timeframes in much like the schedule, but there's some overlap. Our goal is to kind of get through some of these things ahead of time. So this is maybe, I guess, consider it worst case scenario, but we're hoping to kind of move this forward a little quicker. We want to refine those strategic focus areas that have been developed, and also develop some short and long-term initiatives and projects to go along with that to achieve these strategic objectives. It's really important. We want to specify some measurable objectives under these as well. I think that's important. The board's made that clear in their discussions about the draft plan. And we also want to identify alignments with community needs and priorities as well. And also, through that into November to draft an outline of an updated strategic plan for the board to review and comment on before we were to move forward with finalizing it, which would lead to phase three, drafting a draft plan to review and comment, hoping to get this done by a December meeting, and that would include incorporating all the board feedback on the draft plan, gathering feedback from staff and stakeholders, and creating an implementation schedule for the plan to move forward, and also just finalizing that strategic plan for board discussion. And hopefully we're incorporating everything that the entire board would like to see in the updated plan, as well as all the information that's been put in place and the hard work up to this date. And then phase four is really finalizing the plan and developing an action plan, and that's important too. So once we finalize the strategic plan, we want to draft detailed action items with timelines inside of that plan that are achievable, and identify responsible departments and individuals and entities that will help to facilitate these initiatives, and then hopefully the board votes to adopt and approve the final plan in January.
Okay. So, I need a little direction from the board here. Do we want to take a vote on approving this schedule, and then we'll have discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the schedule.
All right, thank you, Karen.
I second it.
Oh, no. Thank you, Chris.
Was that Chris who seconded?
No, it was God.
Correct.
Thank you. All right. All right. So, Eric had his hand up, yes.
So the first question I have is, do you envision this still be a 5-year strategic plan, or would another time frame make more sense? Is 5 years the right number, or should it be a different number?
I mean, that's up for board discussion. Historically, it's been a 5-year plan, so we can certainly look to do that. I think you'll see tonight when we talk about goals moving forward, we really stick to 1 to 3 years. But to have a 5-year strategic plan, I think that's in line with what's been done historically. But that would really be a board decision.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah, I just would like to respond to Sean is that I think what the board would really like is what you think would work, right? If you think 1 to 3 is better, the board is, I think, ready to take your advice on that. So.
We're happy to provide that. How about we start this process, assuming 5 years, when we start to develop it, if the senior leadership team, when we get together to review this, decide it might be more feasible to have a 3-year plan, we'll start
I think
looking at that.
that sounds great.
Paul, I'll get you in just a second, but 2 quick housekeeping things. Number one, if we're done with the PowerPoint, can we get the regular screen up so if I see any hands up online, I can respond to those? Thank you. And secondly, I thought we were going to go for a half a loaf of a 4-year plan. Thank you for avoiding that at this point in the discussion. So, Paul, please.
Yeah, my question has to do with the timeline of the draft budget and the strategic plan. Do you envision us having a draft strategic plan before the vote in December, just so we can compare the strategic goals to the draft budget?
So, yes. So the schedule we gave, really, we'll be giving updates along the way on the plan, but really in November or December to have an outline of the strategic plan with the strategic focus areas and objectives. And I think that's enough for the board to kind of say, okay, well, this is the direction we want to go in, and then we'll start to fill it in through January. So yes, by December, I think there'll be a lot in there for the board to either agree on or not agree on, and enough for the staff to move forward with setting some objectives around that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And anyone else?
Michael has his hand up.
Mike.
Yeah, this isn't going to affect the way I vote either way, but I don't remember the board having any conversation where we reached a consensus that we had to redo the mission and vision statement. So I guess I was a little surprised to see that in there as just kind of yeah, the board wanted that done. I just don't remember ever having that conversation.
Because it was last term. It was during the last term, Michael. Sorry to jump the line here, but it was during the last term, and in fact, there was a lot of discussion about it, and because it's a draft plan, I think the proposed mission and vision are in there, but we'd never voted on it. We kind of tabled it. We didn't actually table it, but that's when it happened.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Karen, so.
Mark this day, folks.
All right, anybody else in the queue here? Reg.
So I would really like to see somewhere down in our schedule where we're taking a look and actually doing an assessment. Are we in the right direction? Are we doing the right things? Do we need to just fire, what have you? So if we could get something to kind of, some down just in the schedule after we start the plan, look at it and say, hey, maybe sometime here at 6 months or a year, we say, well, so let's stop. Let's see, is this the correct thing we're doing? Is this right? Do we need to readjust? What have you? Something to, to make sure we're going down the right road. Because it is a living document. There are changes that are going to take place, I would assume.
Just so I'm clear, are you talking about the development schedule in the next 6 months, or are you talking about the strategic plan over the next 5 years?
Over the next 5 years.
Okay. Yes. All right.
Definitely, that's what our plan, yes.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Eric?
Well, actually, just one other off-the-wall idea is, would it make sense to, Reg mentioned the concept of a living strategic plan, so we could pass a strategic plan, and instead of trying to rewrite it every 5 years or 3 years, one idea was just make it a living strategic plan, revisit it every year, and adjust as needed. So that could be another process to maybe streamline things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't really affect the schedule, though.
Yeah.
Right. Chris, do you have anything for us?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right. Well, with
Let's call the question.
I will ask for your vote first on approving of the strategic plan schedule.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Reg?
Yes.
Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
We are getting along tonight. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. On to new business.
Make a difference.
First thing will be the president's goals and objectives. We have the president's goals in our packets here. And we're going to get those up on the screen.
I have a presentation to go with that too, which I hope to clarify the goals that were presented, and that they were just summarized in your packet, but I'll go into a little more detail here. All right, thanks. similar to the last presentation. Let's see, this is, sorry, I put them together. There we go. I'll talk about a little bit about the process we used to kind of create these goals that you're going to see tonight. It was a collaborative effort with the senior leadership team, and I give credit to them for kind of helping to create the structure that we put in place. That I'll show you as we move along. And that table that you have in your packet was created with the help of Susan and the rest of the senior leadership team to kind of help to identify these areas. The objective of the goals we're going to present tonight, they're really, we haven't finalized the strategic plan, but we feel they align with CA's mission and values. I'll talk about the proposed goals and how, what they're short-term, long-term, some are a little bit of both, and what key areas they address. And then lastly, some board options to decide on the goals. The process we went through was really, a collaborative effort with the senior leadership team. We considered a variety of information that's already been present, the finalized 2019 strategic plan, the draft of the 24 plan. As I mentioned previously, the May 2024 board retreat I thought was really informational and productive. I've also had meetings with the majority of you individually or in small groups, which took out some of that information that overlapped and thought would be beneficial, and used that to combine with this, and also just looked at some historical program and initiative requests that would be helpful to set for goals for the next year or two. The objective of the goals really align with strategic planning initiatives. I won't go over the strategic plan, but there's a lot of work that's been done historically. We really want to stay consistent with that. I think there's a lot to address. But importantly, address key areas of strategic alignment. And I think this was a product of the board retreat in May to identify 6 areas, which were community engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, financial stability, modernization, environmental and resource sustainability, and wellness. And these are really important. We tried to focus on creating goals that really align with these key areas. Also, our objective was to keep consistent with the current CA mission and vision. I have the mission and vision statements here. I won't read them, but this comes from the 2019 plan, but they were also proposed again as in the 2024 draft plan. I know the board, we're going to look at creating possible new mission and vision statements, but I think they'll still align with the goals that we're going to present here tonight. And finally, the final objectives are really, we want goals that are attainable, quantifiable, and consistent with the direction established by the board. I think we want to show success, importantly by April, but also in the next few years. And we want to make sure that when we establish these goals, that there's metrics behind them to show success. Goals 1, 2, and 3 that we've seen, these are goals that we felt were necessary, really imperative to get done within the next 9 months to April. So the board's made it clear, I think, that these are necessary short-term goals. So we wanted to kind of segregate these out just to show their importance. The strategic plan, I won't go into this in too much detail because that was my previous presentation. But the goal number 1 is really updating the strategic plan. That's important. The format I have here is what we're using for all the goals, which is the definition of the goal, the timeline. This we would consider short-term. The board wants this completed by January. And at the bottom, you can see the key areas that it addressed. And we feel like, obviously, the strategic plan addresses all of the key areas. So, important goal. Next, this has come up, village facilities. Evaluating the possibility of CA assuming management of the buildings currently managed by the village community associations. Evaluate opportunities and challenges for both CA and the villages. Are there some economies of scale? There's some standardization that would benefit both. And we would do an analysis on that and then develop a management plan for the board to consider if it's viable. This is great. A great short-term goal. I think provides a lot of benefit to the Columbia as a whole, but also the villages as well. So this also affects all 6 of the key areas. So we thought this was a good goal for the board to review. Goal number 3, this is more of a requirement, but we thought it'd be interesting, is determine whether to exercise the lease option on the headquarters here, which CA needs to decide on by April 30th of 2025. This would be consider evaluating the purchase of the headquarters building, regardless of the lease option, and also evaluate some other potential options if they're available. This is short-term by April, and it really just focuses on financial stability for CA. Next, proposed goals 4 through 7. They're great goals, the next 4. They'd be a little bit aggressive, I think, for us to try to pursue all 4 of those. But if the board wants to select 2 or 3, we thought it would be helpful to give you all the option to select. The first really is a broad goal, adding value, reducing costs. It's really, this is done annually, but this would be taking a harder look at this over the next, this is short-term and long-term, so it'd be, over the next 6 months to 2 years. And it's really looking at opportunities to add value or reduce costs associated with accessing or using CA facilities, programs, and services, as well as the annual charge. And we also want to make sure we're giving additional consideration to groups that are marginalized or underserved. So we're trying to incorporate that to see if there's things that we can do that would provide added value or reduce costs. So we thought this was an interesting goal to pursue. It's something that's pursued every year because both the services team and finance team look at ways, obviously, to control costs and provide benefit and add value. So, but this is taking a harder look at that. And you can see it addresses 3 of our key areas: community engagement, DEI, and financial stability. Number 5, increase online interactivity. The current CA site has a wealth of information on it. And what we want to do now is take that next step to make something more interactive with the CA's geographic information system. For you, those that may not know what that is really just a mapping system that allows us to connect our data information to a mapping information. So you see that every day in Google Maps, but you can also see it through the county has a GIS system that links to their county data. And I think that we have a lot of information and data here in CA that would be great if it was mapped, particularly pool information, facility information, programming events, information along the trails. So this is an interesting goal, I think, obviously, but I think it would provide an opportunity to provide better service to the whole Columbia community. This is a long-term goal. This would take some time to implement, but it really addresses a number of key areas: community engagement, DEI, modernization. So great goal, in my opinion. I think they're all great goals, but that's, I'm an IT guy by heart. So number 6, this came up at the board retreat, which was board development, developing a training plan and curriculum for board excellence that addresses important elements such as CA's governance structure, board member and onboarding, and exit planning, really that knowledge transfer when there's turnover in the board, how to make that as seamless as possible and provide as much information to new board members so that they can hit the ground running. Also impacting board operations, the board's standing in the community and its impact on Columbia as a whole. This is another goal that both has short-term and long-term elements, but there's things that could be done certainly in the short term, but over the long term, it would take some time to develop a real excellence training plan that we could roll out. This addresses like all the key areas, so interesting. And last is natural resource stewardship. CA does a lot in this regard, but what we were proposing was to develop a natural resources stewardship plan. And this would combine and build upon aspects of the current Columbia Watershed Management Plan, the Forest Stewardship Plan, and the Energy Management Plan. This would be long-term. You're probably looking at 2 years to really get this to fruition. But it falls under the key areas of modernization and environmental and resource stability. So those are the last 4 goals for the total of 7. I just created this short little summary page that we can look at, but you also have the packet item table as well. So that's what we have for proposed goals.
Okay, and just for, this is new business, of course. It's for discussion for the board at this time for being voted on at our September meeting. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through our discussion here. I saw Ashley's hand first, then we'll go to Karen next.
Thank you.
Of goals 4 through 7, are there particular goals that that are going to be obviously more difficult to you, and are there goals that you know you would have to work with other organizations with to accomplish?
Yes.
You don't want to elaborate on that, okay?
No, it depends how deep we do a dive on some things, like adding value and reducing costs. Like that could be something we look at internally. That could be something we seek some consulting support on. So until we dive into it, we don't know. There's a lot of work that's been done in that regard. It's really pulling that information together. So, and that's also, reaching out to partners in the community to see, how CA's, fees and services affect them. So that takes some time. That's why it's short and long term for that. And, the interactivity with the website, that is another one of those things. Yes, that will be difficult to implement. It has a lot of potential, but that is a huge effort to get done. But that is sort of the future of what we're looking at. So we have a great, robust web presence, social media presence. Now we want to make that interactivity for everyone when they're out in the public. If they're walking the trails, like where are they? Do they know where they are? What's near them? Things like that, but what do they have access to?
Like, is that something that we have staff in-house for right now, or like that you'd have to hire a position for with that
I don't know if we'd have to hire a position right away. That's something we would look at to see how the rollout goes, particularly with the interactivity. A lot of that is, we don't have the expertise in-house to really make that happen. We have the expertise to help coordinate it, certainly. But that's, moving forward, that's when we develop the plan in the process of how we're going to get from point A to point B. And part of that is presenting to the board, okay, this is the goal. Here's how we're going to achieve that. We're going to do these things, and we expect to be here. This is our resources we're going to need to get from point A to point B.
Okay. We're going to go to Karen, then Colin, and then Eric.
Yeah, Sean, these are good goals. In general, I really like these. Number 7, I'm wondering, can you incorporate, I know you guys have already worked on these, but would it be possible to incorporate something similar to what you have in number 4 in that last sentence about marginalized or underserved communities, because they get hit the hardest by the climate emergency. So I would like to see something built into number 7 that addresses environmental justice, those types of things, so that the communities that are the least able to protect themselves get some additional consideration.
Yes, we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Colin, and Eric, then Sky.
I have.
Chris has his hand up. I don't know when.
Okay, so after Eric, Chris. Colin.
So thank you, Sean. This is really helpful. I have 3 things. So starting from the bottom. So going off of number 7 as well. This actually might be a question for Jeremy too. So we name several of these plans. Do we have something similar for our pathways? Do we have a pathway type plan as well?
So these are actually formal documents that exist in terms of how we manage our energy as an organization, how we manage our watershed as an organization. Some of them were developed externally. The energy management plan I wrote, so it was an internal document. We don't have a formal pathway plan. We have guidelines and policies, but not necessarily a planning like a planning level document.
Okay, that's good to know and helpful. The other one is, so I appreciate the, breaking these up and how you have them listed. I would suggest, if possible, thinking about how we can make number 4 part of that higher list too. I know that there's going to be, that is a great conversation for short and long term, but thinking about how can we prioritize things so that we can have something in front of the board so there's an immediate conversation that we can have, I think would be really helpful. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is with number 2, which I appreciate. Again, I appreciate seeing it as being presented as an option for the board to discuss, but also recognizing if there is substantive change that's going to come from that plan, that is probably more of, I'm thinking, a long-term goal. So with that being said, thinking about, my suggestion is for you to consider maybe reshuffling 2 and 4 in that list.
Yeah, we can certainly look to do that. And it's really up to the board to decide, on what goals they would like to see achieved. But yeah.
All right. Eric.
So I'm going under the assumption that these are in no priority order. I assume that I'm going on the assumption they're basically all equally priority for now. I'm not sure if that was your assumption.
Yes, the first three are kind of short-term. Number 3, we have to get done. Number 1, we need to get done. So 2 was, those are, I guess, our priorities that need to be completed. But 2 is,
But my first comment is, first, I'd like to see a metrics column. So how do we know we've got it done? So how do we know we've achieved each of these goals? What are the key metrics that we need to achieve? So I'd like to see a metrics column, how we adjudicate these roles. I really like the idea that they're broken down into short-term and long-term goals. So short-term goals, I'm assuming, are within this fiscal year.
By April.
By April. Long-term goals are beyond April. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I really like this is because long-term goals are things that could feed into a strategic plan, because when we're looking at strategic planning, we're looking 1, 2, 3, X number of years out. We've already got goals here that are going multiple years out, so these would be a good start for a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. My one concern are when we have goals that don't have a short-term component, just a long-term component, the concern I have is how do we evaluate those in April? So I think it would be helpful if we can identify some short-term metrics to know that we're on track to be able to evaluate those goals in April. And last comment to Colin, there actually is a Pathways app we have posted that has a map of all our pathways, and I believe it also has a map of proposed pathways. So I'm not sure if that's a plan or not, but that's one place you might look.
Okay. Reg, I saw your hand, but I've got Chris in the sky there in my head, so I got to get Chris's comment, and I'll get to you next, okay?
I think there's something for me.
All right, number 3, looking at the HQ lease and purchase, I feel like moving CA into where it is now from being down near Lake Kittamakundi was a huge mistake, and that it removed it from where people are and really kind of reduced the accessibility. Is there thought being put into moving to another building?
Well, the objective of the goal was to evaluate scenarios like that. Also, the lease purchase, whether to stay here and purchase or whether to purchase per the lease, but also to discuss or evaluate other options.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, looking at what's in the draft goals, the packet that was sent out, it just seems like it's just a go, no go on purchasing the headquarters building before the option expires. So I would love to see a little bit more thought put into returning it to some place that's more accessible to residents and give CA more of a presence instead of kind of being tucked away back there in Stevens Forest. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Reg?
Okay, I thought someone else had supposed to go before me. Do you want to go before me?
No, but Michael is in the queue, and if I could add myself after that.
Okay, so Reg, then Mike, and then Sky.
Okay, so I like all the goals. I think the goals are really, they're spot on. When we started looking at, from what I understand, the first 3 are really a higher priority. Is that what I understand? And then the 4 through 7 are a little bit, they're still a priority, but a little bit lower. Right. I would really encourage us to think about moving number 7 up, because that is a topic that it's been hot, in the community as far as the environmental, stewardship that we have. Because we look around, one of the reasons many of us bought here is because of the, the trees, the lakes, and all the amenities, natural resource amenities that we have. So I would encourage us to do that. Secondly, don't shoot me, but I was on the board that was talking about whether to move from where we were to over here. And so one of the questions I asked like a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, whatever happened to it? Because I knew the time period was that we were going to revisit whether we're going to, buy or stay. So I'm glad it's up there, and, we do need to make a decision on that. Whether it's good or bad that we moved, one of the reasons we moved was that if we'd stayed where we were, the rent was going to go up a lot. So, it just seemed like a wise move at the time. But don't shoot me.
All right, I believe it's Mike and then Sky. So thank you, Reg.
Yeah, so first, I'll just say I agree with Eric that I think we need to work in like what the definition of done is for these goals, because I think some of them I think it's clear, like we got the strategic plan done or we didn't. Others, I just want to make sure, are we talking about we've developed a plan to get something done or we've actually accomplished something, right? So, you know, what is it, like number 5, like are we actually, is the goal to actually increase the interactivity or is the goal to implement a plan, right? And I don't need that answered right now. It's just agree with Eric that having some definition of done associated with these is important. But my primary concern is that these are all goals that have to do with making this kind of discrete changes within CA. And I think these are all worthwhile things to consider changing. But I feel like if we only have these goals and we don't have goals that have to do with how is CA performing in its day-to-day routine mission of maintaining open space, of running the gyms, running the pools, that we're losing the forest for the trees at that point. And I would really like to see some goals associated with maintaining a high level of performance for community operations, maintaining a high level of performance with, I get all the units confused because they all say community, but all the different branches of CA, I would like to see goals associated with maintaining a high level of service in those areas. And also some longer term things of making sure that CA is healthy for the future, such as goals associated with maintaining finances, goals associated with maintaining human resources strength. I think all of that would be beneficial, and I don't think those things would really be additional tasks for the staff to perform because you're already doing them. It would just codify them as goals and provide a way for the board to understand whether or not CA is being successful at some of that day-to-day stuff and making sure that the staff gets credit for performing in those areas.
Okay.
I know I said a lot there, so just one other thing. I don't quite get the difference between making number 7 a goal and not making it a goal, because I just kind of think that like Jeremy and his team, like they're trying to be good stewards of natural resources all the time. And I'm not saying there's no meaning there. I'm sure there is. I'm just saying I don't get the difference between 7 and not having 7.
Okay, Mike,
but again,
I want to I got to stop at this point because, and I apologize for cutting you off. I want to make sure everybody here is clear. These are goals for Sean. These are the president's goals. These are not goals for all the staff or for the organization as a whole, but we're trying to hone in on how we will evaluate Sean's performance through the year. We're kind of in, and I see you, Karen. We've got strategic plan, president's goals, and we're going to talk about board goals next. I just want to make sure we're in the right bucket with these particular goals that are on the screen now. This is related to the president. So I'll let you finish, Mike, then Sky, and then Karen and Eric.
I understand that, Bill.
Okay.
And I think the board would be doing something horribly wrong if the president and CEO's evaluation wasn't tied to how well CA is serving the community and performing its daily activities.
Fair point. Okay. And is that all, Mike?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. We're a little bit, there's some separation. I want to make sure that you were heard. Sky?
Yeah, there are a lot of topics here. I had, the first time I came to the headquarters building, I had no problems. The second time I got lost, and it took me a half hour of driving back and forth among streets before I recognized the building. I have talked with several staff members over the past couple of years, and the impression I get is that the average resident doesn't need to physically come into headquarters. So whether or not headquarters would be located here or more visibly near the lakefront seems to be a moot point. And also, somebody suggested that we would have to make a decision whether or not to buy the building. But what I understand is that we could make the decision to buy, and if not, we could lease for X number of months or years. So maybe we could get that data out so we all understand the situation. And I looked at last year's president's goals, and I printed them out and can't find them. Did you incorporate those as well?
No.
Okay. And there was no accountability last year of the goals, so I'm glad you have already brought that to our attention. And I think that's it.
Okay, just a quick housekeeping note. We're about 5 minutes left on our allotted time here. So Karen, Eric, and I'm going to ask Paul, because you have not spoken yet, and then we'll figure out if we want to continue this discussion. Okay?
Does Chris have his hand up, or, oh, no?
Nope, left it up earlier, sorry.
Thank you. Karen?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So one thing, Sky, I think the only place you can get your Columbia card is here.
No.
I think where else can you get it? The gyms? You have to go to the gyms to get it?
Yeah.
So there's only 2 places, so you have to be able to get to the gyms. Well, there's 3 gyms. Thanks for splitting those hairs. The next thing is, Michael was right. Michael's right. I mean, Sean's job is to make sure that CA is running properly. And so I think that we probably should incorporate, because last year I think we were all really upset when 3 pools got closed at the end of July. I don't think that was CA giving great service to our residents. So I think, I think there probably should be something in here. So I wanted to say that I agreed with Michael on that.
Can I address that?
If you wish.
Sure. So operationally, Mike brings up a good point, and you do too. We've talked about this internally. So I think this year part of that budget process is having the senior leadership team, Dan, Jeremy, Susan, speak about their operations. And there's a lot of questions that come up, but really present, here's where we're at. Here's how we evaluate operations internally by department. And I think that would be helpful for the board to hear from them, the hard work that goes into really assessing their operations, because there's a lot that goes into it. And I think it's helpful. We've had discussions internally about it, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think that's important for the board to hear. So part of our discussions early on about the budget process is having them present that and answer questions to the board. There's a lot that comes up through the course of the year that they don't get the opportunity to really respond to everybody at once. So we're hoping to do that as part of this budget cycle. And I think that'll be helpful.
All right, thanks, Sean. Eric?
So one other thing I'd like to agree with Mike on is he talked about the difference between planning goals and doing goals, and I would like to see more of the goals as much as possible be doing goals. So I'd like to be able to see number 4, for example, instead of analyze opportunities to add value. Let's do it. The other point I'd like to make is some of these goals I feel are actually board goals and not CEO goals. Like number 3, that's a board goal. That's a board decision. I think that should be taken off this list and just put under board goals. Number 1, I think that's almost another board goal. That's something that the board's got to develop. And so I'd like to sort of start taking things that are really board goals, moving those to the board goal list, and then basically figuring out what are the actual CEO goals that we're going to evaluate the CEO on.
Well, I can speak to that. Yep. So I'll be doing the board goals there. So there's CEO goals. Like I can't, if we're doing the work of the strategic plan, I can't say, well, I have to say, well, now I need to work on my own goals. This is kind of collaborative goals working together. So yeah, and particularly with the HQ, well, the strategic plan, obviously, but this building, we'll do an analysis of all the options. It's a board decision. Same with the strategic plan. It's the board's decision about what the final outcome is, but that's a lot of work and effort to get to the point where we're presenting the board with the information.
Oh, no, I don't disagree, but board also passes the budget, but there's no budget goal in here, so that's where I'm sort of going.
We all have our lanes. It's I'll just amplify what Sean's saying with the purchase, the potential to purchase this building. They're going to do the financial workup. They're going to do the comparative analysis. They're going to give us the options. Those will be presented. We are the decision makers, and that rests with us for sure. But there's also a very strong staff component for that exact same goal, and they can be similar in name and overlap, but we each have our own duties when approaching that goal, right? So, one ship, one direction, right? So, All right, Paul.
I was going to say, it would be helpful for me to see, I don't know if CA already has it, sort of like facilities master plan with all these discussions about the village centers and, the headquarters here, just a shorter even or long-term goal for the facilities in CA. I think it would be really helpful for like the board to review that along with any future plans to know that it's all been figured out. So I just think that would be helpful.
Okay. Just for clarification, would you need that report in the next 5 weeks so we could make a decision on the goals, or it would be good information?
No, just to have for the future, just at any point in time to understand how, I guess you would, how you'd want to move forward with just all of CA's facilities in the future.
It's a nice segue, I'll say, because Colin's going to tell me we're out of time. So just a quick wrap up on our discussion. Thank you for everyone's input. Jeremy.
Sorry, I have a quick correction from a question earlier. Colin, Jason was kind enough to remind me we actually do have a active transportation plan, a Connecting Columbia plan from 2012 that I narrowly focused on the pathway component, but we do have an active transportation plan from 12 years ago.
Was that originally the bicycle and pedestrian master plan? I think so. Okay, all right.
Really quick thing for Paul. I think last year the board was presented with a plan of future capital expenditures going out 10 years.
A capital plan, but not an overall facility plan. I'm not sure. We can work with Jeremy. So we'll either put that together, but the capital plan is just really capital projects, not the facility.
It might be worth just at least sending that out to the board.
All right, so just to wrap up, once again, thanks everybody for your input on this particular topic. Once again, what Sean has asked is the top 3 would be goals that we would like to implement for this year. Pick 2 of the remaining 4 as president's goals, and we may augment those as we've discussed here with respect to vulnerable populations or other parts that we've discussed for a vote in September. Everybody good with that? All right, moving on to board goals.
Hey, Bill, actually, I have something on that. Like, I guess I just have I guess I would like to hear from Sean if he thinks he's gotten the guidance he needs to refine these goals moving forward, because I heard a lot of different stuff and not a lot of consensus from the board, and maybe now's not the time for consensus, but I guess I'd just be curious if Sean feels like, yep, I hear you, I know what to do, or he needs clarification on anything.
Nope, great question. I think, we have enough to get going internally on certainly goals 1 through 3. What the board decides for the other goals, I think I have some idea, but once the board decides, we can move forward with that. And I think one of the questions you asked too, Mike and Eric, was around like, well, how do we gonna quantify what we're doing? Much like the strategic plan I presented tonight, for these goals, we're going to say, well, here's the process we're going to go through and to achieve these goals, and here's what we're going to look for metrics, and this is how we're going to know we have success. So kind of presenting more of a plan and a process for achieving these goals. So for the first 3, you've seen one already tonight. The facilities and the HQ, we can present that probably at the next meeting, just an overview of how we're going to show success and demonstrate that. Now for 4 through 7. I think, we'll start to pursue 4 and 5 and put that together. But if the board decides to pivot, we'll be prepared for that. So, if the board wants to think about it and then in September come back and say, well, no, we decided on these other ones, that's fine too. We can make that work. So that sounds like a plan to you all too. Then we're ready to go.
All right, thanks, Sean.
So just one last thing. I mean, that sounds great. But I think at least Karen and I were saying, hey, I think we're missing a couple things that need to be added here. And I'm not sure if we need to reach consensus on that to move forward, or if that's just Karen and I. Obviously, we have reached consensus. But
yeah, I think we can incorporate that. That's not a problem at all, what you've asked for, you and Karen.
Did you have something specific you want to add?
Goals related to CA's performance on more day-to-day things instead of changes.
Well, that was my point with the budget process this year, where the team's going to come in and present, how they evaluate operations, and we do. So you'll want to hear it from the leadership team themselves, and I think that's going to answer some of your questions, Mike.
I look forward to those. My concern here, though, is that we're putting your goals together for which we're going to evaluate you. And there are at least 2 board members, Karen and myself, who have said your evaluation should be tied to CA's performance in that regard, not just accomplishing these discrete goals. And so I don't want that to come up at the end of the year instead of right now. I'd like us to reach consensus on that in the next month or so. I guess that's where I'm getting at.
Are you proposing an additional goal, Mike? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I'm proposing at least 1 additional goal, arguably 4 additional goals that are goals related to maintaining high levels of performance for CA's day-to-day routine operations, and explicitly listing those as goals that we will evaluate the president on. And obviously obviously if things like COVID happen, we're not going to we're going to take extenuating circumstances into account, but we should be evaluating the chief executive officer of a corporation on how well that corporation is performing.
May I make a motion?
This is kind of a discussion. We're not really doing motions, but
It is new business, so we can make a motion. So I'd like to move to add goal 8. To move that one of the goals is for CA to operate at a high level, including maintaining all 23 pools being open for the entire season or for their normal schedules, making sure that all facilities are open for their normal schedules, and making sure that our open space is maintained at a high level, including all necessary snow clearing. That where you're going with this, Mike?
No, actually.
I actually think that's too specific.
On some level, it's where I'm going, Eric. But I'd really like the staff to define what those measurable goals are, right? Because I don't think it's realistic to say, hey, the performance is all 23 pools are open or something like that. I want to know I want the staff to tell us, hey, here's how we measure our performance. And here at a high levels is, we think, a reasonable way for the board to measure performance as well. So directionally correct, but the specifics, I don't think we're right, Eric.
Can I?
Okay, hold on. Let me go. Ashley had her hand up, then Karen, and then Colin, and then we got to figure this out. Okay,
I'll withdraw the motion. I'd be happy if someone could reword it.
So
I agree with what Mike is saying, that we need a goal just for, scoring on the success of your day-to-day, right? Like, you're the leader of a large organization. You're not spending every day focused on these, it'll be 5 goals, right, that you're trying to work on. And realistically, that'll be taken into account with the evaluation. So figuring out what those metrics are so that there's not a lot of subjectivity amongst 10 different people whenever they give the performance evaluation, I think will be a lot better, because it's ultimately giving guidance for us in deciding whether it was considered successful or not. Having all 23 pools open throughout the summer is beyond the CEO's control, because that has to do with extenuating circumstances and too many conditions. So I don't think it should be nearly that specific. I think the staff should come up with what those types of metrics are for how that success is determined. But it makes sense what Michael's saying.
No, I agree. Yeah. I think I understand what you're all looking for as far as, performance metrics. And so let us work internally. We'll come back in September and add another goal to talk about, how evaluating me on the organization's high performance level and what those metrics are around that to evaluate me.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a goal, really, right? It's just a statement of what you're already doing and providing us a metric for what is considered success.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah. Definitely do that. That'll be great.
I think this is easy. I think it's a satisfaction survey.
Yeah.
I think it's a satisfaction survey. You just ask everyone who's using the facilities, the programs, whatever, did you love it? Mm-hmm. And then, is it running right? All those kinds of things. I'm not the designer of satisfaction surveys, but I actually think that is the easiest way to figure out whether you're achieving that. So.
Okay.
So Colin to go about it.
And I was just going to say, I agree with a lot of the conversation that's happening right now. I just want to be mindful of time and how long we allocated for this topic, and if we want to keep talking or go on to the next. Sorry. Listen, I got a signed timekeeper, so.
Not an easy job. Thank you for keeping us on track there. I appreciate it. So, Sean, if you can come up with an additional goal based on day-to-day metrics, performance and evaluation, how efficient, how high-performing the organization is, that would be much appreciated. All right, board goals. All right, yeah, now that's our next topic. I asked for this to be put on here at our last Board Operations Committee meeting, and the reason why I asked for this to be put on the agenda for discussion is that for the last 2 years that I've been on this board, we haven't had any goals that said by the end of the year we want to do this. We want the organization to be here. We have been really working from Board Operations Committee meeting to Board Operations Committee meeting. And I think in the short-term quarterly kind of process, we've been fairly successful. But I'd also like for us at the end of the year to be able to say, we carry the organization to this place. And we're already talking about the strategic plan. We're going to be talking about the budget. I'd like to know, and this is the discussion end of this under new business, so if there was any votes on this, it would come up at a later meeting. But are there any policy areas that we as a board would like to pursue? Are there any reports that we want to review and provide input on? Are there any objectives that we feel that we should be doing as far as serving the community? We don't have any of that at this point, and I'd like to entertain a discussion for a few minutes on that and maybe come up with some votes. So I'll start with Karen.
Actually, I was going to initially say that I think Sean's goals are our goals. However, when you talked about policy, I do think that we should look at some policies. For example, I would like the board to put together a policy around decision analysis and review for making sure that whenever decisions are made, either by the board or by staff or whoever, that we have a set criteria that takes into account things like the climate emergency, vulnerable communities, those types of things. I would like to see policies around that. I'd also like us, of course, to revisit the easement policy, because I think we could use that independent evaluation of some of the decisions that we make. I think it would be super helpful. So those are that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Eric?
I think I agree with Karen. Our number one goal is to support the CEO in achieving the CEO's goals. So that's goal number one. But for the board, I think a second important goal is developing a policy book, figuring out what the policies of the board are, which ones are active, which ones need to be reviewed, which ones are obsolete and gone away. Yeah. But what are the policies? Do we have a policy book that enumerates all the up-to-date policies? And are there any policies missing? Are there policies that we should have that we don't have? So I would like basically a full in-depth analysis of board policies.
So you'd like a policy on policies?
No, not we do need a policy on policies. That's missing, but it's bigger than that. It's really developing a compilation of what all our active policies are, what policies need to be updated, what policies are obsolete, and what policies are missing.
Yeah, okay.
And those 4 points.
After 90 minutes, I get a little punchy, so my apologies. I didn't mean to.
But yeah, we do need a policy on policies.
I agree with you, and I'll get to you, Sky, in just a second. I just want to jump in and give my support, at least in this way. I strongly believe that we need a change management policy for all of our policies, which gets into,
policy on policies.
How are things updated? How are the revisions accounted for? How are they archived? All those kind of things. And in addition, evaluating, when do we review them and all those kind of things. So that might be an important thing that we undertake as far as by the end of the year, we want to have a completed policy would be ideal, but at least make progress towards it, identify the milestones or something. Sky.
Yeah, I think it was last October that John Cucino started modernizing the policies, so that part of it has already begun. And what I'm interested in, and Bill, I'm sure you can verbalize this much better than I, we have a grants policy and a donation policy, and I'd like to perhaps go back to donating a certain amount every year to the foundation, to have the foundation make those donation decisions rather than us.
Sure, yeah. I think that's a good policy that we could work through. Anybody else got a hot policy they want to put on the list? Mike?
This conversation kind of concerns me a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
Because I don't understand the distinction we're making between a board goal and a CA goal. So if unless we're saying these things for board goals are things that the board is going to do without the support of staff, we're just creating more goals for the staff. We're not creating actual board goals. And a lot of the specific things that have been thrown out, like reviewing certain policies, it would terrify me if the board did that without input from the staff. So I guess, like, I think we need a little more discipline and clarity around the conversation we're trying to have here.
Okay. I'm just going to throw this back just for the purpose of the conversation here, but it seems like you're kind of where Eric is, that we need to have a policy on policies. Is that kind of where you are, Mike?
Heck, no.
Okay. Because you're talking about how do policies get born, how do they get revised? You don't want the board to do it in isolation. We'd have to work with staff to do it. We're taking up staff time to do it.
Well, it's just who's the qualified individual to be reviewing them.
Right.
Yeah.
Do the policies get handed to us from an external organization, or how do policies work, Mike?
Well, my question is actually more fundamental. Like, what are our policies? What are the active policies?
Yes.
Well, our charter says that the board formulates policies, so we could do the work.
I'm asking Mike.
I am just making a conversation. I'm making a point about this discussion, not about the policy element of the discussion, which is that if we are, it seems like we're having like a shadow conversation about giving the staff more goals, that I don't know how we're distinguishing what a board goal is from a CA goal. And I would like clarity on what the difference between a board goal is versus a CA goal, because I think that's a false distinction.
Okay.
And if any element of a board goal requires staff support, then we're just having a roundabout way of tasking the staff with more work, and that should just get folded into the previous conversation.
Okay. I'm starting to have a conversation with Mike. Is that okay with everybody?
Can I ask a question?
Karen.
Well, is John still reviewing all the policies? I mean, he had already taken that task on last year, so
Yes.
we might have already started that,
Well, I
as
think,
Sky pointed out.
John?
That work? Okay. Yes, I mean, we're continuing to go through the process. I just, while you were talking, called up this list of in excess of 150 policies that we have. I think we went through and we eliminated 15 obsolete ones, and we still face the dilemma of distinguishing in some respects whether it's a board policy or a staff policy, because in some cases it's not clear. But the idea was, and the direction I took from you all, was that we were going to continue to work on that and bring you policies when we can at meetings and bring you up to date on that. I mean, to just devote it to completely revising the policy book, you want to give me another lawyer, I could probably get that done.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough time to just completely do it. I think we're making progress in doing that, but I thought the direction I got was we'll continue to bring you those things, and with the ultimate idea being we will develop a database of policies and put it online, it'll be searchable, and that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to quick comment and then I'll get to you, Karen, okay? The way that I see it is that, imperfect analogy, I'm making this up on the fly, so don't hold me super accountable, but the way I see it is that John's going through and figuring out which books in the library we want to keep, which ones are outdated, which ones are the latest revision, those kind of things. If we're trying to figure out a change management structure or what are the policies, how do we review them and revise them, that's like we're building the bookshelves so that when John gets done with figuring out the master list of books, we can put them somewhere in the library. That's how I see it. So just that comment, Karen.
Yeah, I actually think that the policies being online is hugely important. I think we have a gap when it comes to policies. So if John needs extra staff to do this, I am in favor of the board voting to give him extra staff to do this.
Okay.
So, do I need to make a motion?
Well, once again, we're in new business. We don't do motions. and honestly, let's get that through the Board Operations Committee and actually get that through the budget discussion.
Well, when does Board Operations Committee meet again? Because we don't meet again until the 12th. And if we want John to hire somebody, it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get somebody. So he's got to do all that on top of everything else he has to do. So if we actually want to give him another lawyer to help him go through these policies, we should make a decision tonight to hire him another lawyer.
Karen, I think we're talking about goals, so we could say by the end of the year that we made progress on updating our policies by creating another position to work under John, to clear out the existing policies so that we can get to work on the ones that are still relevant and are not out of date. And that would be a board goal that we could make progress towards. That's what we're talking about as board goals. The actual completion of the project is also an important thing to do, but they're not necessarily coincident. Okay?
Well, can I add hiring a lawyer for John to do this? Because I think it's actually risk. I think we're at risk because we don't know what our policies are. We don't necessarily follow our policies. So I actually think this is probably critical that if he needs help to get this done. And John, if we hired you another lawyer, could you finish it by April?
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
We certainly wouldn't look at adding human resources without having a plan in place. I think, John had mentioned I think that was more being sarcastic. I think they're working hard. We would have to evaluate what work needs to be done. Is it a small sample size of work that needs to be done? So we don't want to hire a full-time staff to be here in perpetuity just to get one project done. So if we can certainly present to the board what we think should be done in order to kind of update all the policies and have them in a database and search. It may be just some consulting support. Maybe it is a full-time person, but let us do that evaluation.
Yeah. Eric.
I do have one question. On our website, there under home policies and statements, we've got a list of some policies. I've got a list, links to about a couple dozen policies on the left, and on the right, there's some more policies and statements. And I'm just trying to figure out how that all links to our sort of repository, how all this jives together. Because if I go on the website, I see links to, I'm not sure they're board policies or staff policies or what kind of policies they officially are, but I've got links to about 24 policies here, plus statements on the right.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. I will say that the policies that you have in the packets that you're given are basically what I'm operating from, in addition to these notebooks that are stored in some dusty closet upstairs that we're going through. But what you have in the files that you were given access to, those are the basic policies I'm working from, in addition to the physical binders like this that we're trying to normalize and reconcile.
Yeah, what I'm referring to is on our website under columbiaassociation.org, you can go /policies-statements and that brings up a website of links to policies.
Well, once again, we need to focus on policies that the board has control over, right? We don't set operational policy.
I'm not sure what kind of policies these are.
All right. Well,
most of them.
We can follow up.
Yep, we'll follow up. Paul?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think Sean's idea is good, evaluating what's out there and understanding the full scope of what work needs to be done on the policies is the best first step before making a decision on, how we want to go about it. Because it sounds like nobody really knows just what we really need to work on when it comes to the policies themselves.
Okay. All right, Colin?
Two things. We have 40 seconds left in this conversation. Nice timekeeper. Second thing is, this is going to be a little bit of a stream of consciousness, so I apologize in advance. But thinking of going back to like board goals and being one of the newer members on the board, I just want to call an audible that I, as being kind of an observer of past boards from Columbia Association, I have a feeling that we're working better together. And I want to call that out and also figure out what does it mean to work together as a board, and how can we continue collaborative work together, still have controversy with civility, and that's okay. But really be a board that our community is proud of and we're reflective of our community. So I don't have, again, stream of consciousness. I just wanted to call that out and keep that up.
All right. Two things. I think that's an excellent place to end this discussion, but I see that Mike has his hand up. So, Mike?
Colin had a much better board goal than the whole policy discussion, which not even sure there was consensus from the board that was a real priority.
Okay. All right, thanks. We will move on then. Financial reports. And let me just preface it by saying it's got to be better than our last discussion. I apologize for mismanaging the last discussion, so. Please,
Susan?
So the first item, the audited financials, at the audit committee meeting on Tuesday, July 23rd, the independent auditors, SB and Company, were in attendance, and they presented the results of their audits. So they do two projects, two audits. One is the financial statement audit as of April 30, 2024. The other is an audit of the employee benefit plan, or the 401k, and that's actually a calendar year end, December 31, 2023. That's a little bit different. It's an ERISA audit and has some other different standards applying. But in both cases, the external auditors, independent auditors, issued clean or unmodified opinions, which is the highest level of results that an organization can obtain. They had no audit adjustments to present, which is a testimony to Lynn and her team's just really solid accounting and timely and thorough and accurate work. And the results were very favorable, and they seemed pleased with their work. So there was one new accounting standard that was implemented this year. I won't go into that. Really, it's had minimal impact on Columbia Association and really required just a little bit different disclosure in the footnotes. But otherwise, the statements should look very similar from last year. They were comparable from year to year. Any questions on the audited financials, or would the board members who were present at the audit committee might have some comments as well?
I thought it was a good job. You guys did a good job.
There you go.
Thank you to Lynn and her team for getting such an outstanding feedback and score.
Thank you.
Clarification. You're all Susan's team?
Well, I know Susan too, but since she named you for the credit.
I get out of the way.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was really happy. It was good. And you should be really pleased. You should be really proud of those results. And the auditors, I think, did note that, they have many other clients that don't have such favorable outcomes. And then secondly, the fourth quarter financial report. So it's really the year-end financial report, and that's the detailed P&L, or statement of activities, along with a lot of other information. And that we went through that also at the audit committee, and in the packet and what's posted on the website as well are some reports from each of the department directors that hit the highlights of their operations, as well as a CA-wide discussion of variances, key variances for the year. And included in that report, just to remind you, are some dashboard type metrics, snapshots in time, not real time, ongoing dashboards, and a lot of information about capital projects and the cash position of the organization. So just would also then open that up to questions or comments.
Anything from the board here? All right. Thank you, Susan. It's,
Hey, Bill, I actually do have 2 questions.
yes.
It's very specific questions, and it's more for my information, Susan. The lease revenue, why is that dropping off in a couple of years, and is that associated with a decrease in expenses as well?
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that, Michael. You submitted those in the board tracking form, and I did have the answers here. So the Michael is referring to, and in the financial statements, we are required to present future revenue and future commitments on various topics. So if you're looking at the packet, that's page 64 of the packet, and it's a decline in projected future revenue expected from leases. And those are, yes, that due to the timing of certain facility leases expiring or space in leases expiring. In some cases, we are considering not renewing those leases to free up space for other purposes. In that case, we would not expect a decrease in expenses. Then Mike also asked about intangible assets. So on the statement of financial position, on the balance sheet, there's a category of assets labeled intangible assets net. And on page 62 of the packet, in note 1, in the financial statements, the first footnote is always a discussion of the organization, what estimates are used, and the main kind of accounting principles or policies that are followed. So related to intangible assets, that this was goodwill that was recognized and recorded related to the acquisition of some land parcels in Columbia Gateway decades ago. The goodwill was amortized, meaning that a portion of it was expensed every year, but the accounting principles changed and that no longer is required. So there is also the amortization that's in the financial statements. It's noted in, you might see it on the statement of cash flows as an add back, is related to debt issuance costs. So when we incurred, issued the term loans, the costs incurred in issuing those is a capital item and gets amortized, expensed a little bit every year over the life of those loans. So those were the specific questions you asked. And you had one more that was note.
I think that last one, I think I
you
fixed
figured that
myself.
out? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So these answers have been added to the board tracking log, and just waiting for an administrative change so that you guys can see it. I don't have the ability to push it out to you all, and that should be coming out next week.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
So
Eric had a question.
This is sort of a cross between the financials and our previous discussion. But in the financials, it notes that we ended the fiscal year almost $5 million above budget. And for reference, last year, I think it was roughly a little over $4 million above budget. So the question I have for Sean is, what's the plan to leverage these additional resources?
Well, I mean, for this year or for next year?
This year, next year.
Well, we're starting to prepare that as part of the budget cycle for next year. I think Susan's been working on building up the cash reserves, which I think, we're on a path for that. So, we'll see. We're also, technically coming out of COVID, so we want to make sure that it's stable. So I don't have specifics for you right now, but it's something that we do consider.
Yeah, it's something I'd like to sort of see worked on and fleshed out over the next few cycles.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I had just one quick comment on the annual report. the yearbook format was interesting, but more specifically, I noted that in the where the money comes from section, it looks like our revenue from memberships came in above what our revenue from residential lien payments was. And I think that was the standard before COVID. And it was interesting to see us get back in that same way. And I was just wondering if you could comment on whether that's relative health of the organization or of the membership function that we have here. Am I reading too much into it, or is that a good sign to see?
You're not reading too much into it. It is a good sign. It does show that we're moving towards, results that the community was used to before COVID.
Right.
It's not, the membership revenue's not, and the memberships are not back to what they were pre-COVID, but we've made good progress, and
yeah.
It still remains to be seen what the new normal is, I think. And to Sean's point, which he's right on point, that human behavior is still a question. Every time we had a named variant, when a spike in COVID, we saw an impact on participation and usage and membership. So
spike right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we've been conservative on that, but it's showing tremendous growth, and the team's been very successful, and people are happy. They're using the facilities.
Right. Now, just final quick point, and I'll come over to you, Ashley. I know that there's still plenty of work to do as far as membership revenue getting back to pre-COVID dollar numbers, but the relative numbers seem to be saying we're approaching normalcy in at least some context there.
I think you're right.
Thank you, Ashley.
Since you brought up the yearbook format, it reminded me, and I was thrilled to see, since I was on the committee that adjusted the goals for it, the 53% increase in business done with minority-owned businesses. Was there a particular vendor focused, or I'm guessing we'll see a report on it at some point during the term, but.
Yeah, no, it was just a significant effort to make it something that the whole team participated in, and not just the procurement team. They drove that, and were very creative, and really challenged the CA purchasers to take a new look at new people. But we had some really great success with a couple big construction projects with MBE vendors, and our software license, not the main applications, but a lot of our software licensing we're buying through MBEs. It's really quite diverse, in addition to being
amazing. That's a huge increase.
It was a really good.
Phenomenal.
Now, it ebbs and flows with those big projects.
Yeah.
But it's great to have those firms now, in the family.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, good point. Thanks for bringing it up. Questions only. President's report.
Hey, Bill, I had my hand up.
I'm sorry, Mike. Yes.
I was just going to make a quick observation that both your comments on the memberships and revenue, and possibly Ashley's comment on MBE, those are the types of things that maybe lend themselves towards goal number 8 as far as evaluating the performance of CA.
Write that down.
I made a mental note, actually.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Way to drive a point home, Mike.
All right. All right. President's report. Any comment about your president's report at all?
There's things I can highlight, but if you want to move on, if there's any questions.
We're doing great on time, I think. Did the board have any questions about the president's report? I'll give you a moment or two, please. Tell us some interesting things.
Well, there's lots of interesting information in here, but I wanted to highlight some things. The Art Center continues to offer the ceramics classes and workshops. I highlighted this because I had my tour of the Art Center, and Liz, who operates that center, was great, phenomenal. I met a whole group of a ceramics class, and they couldn't say enough good things about Liz and the class and the Art Center. And the funny thing was, they said, if the only reason we leave here is because it closes. So they are there all the time. So they were, I thought I'd pass that along to the board. They're really happy with the whole facility and what it offers. And let's see, I had, where is it? I just lost it. Sorry about The Columbia Gym's first manager member game night was a big hit. Over 40 members of all ages and 20 staff members participated, so that was a great staff member interaction. And this will be a quarterly member event, so I thought that was great to show some great service by the staff of going above and beyond.
Are we invited?
What games are being played?
Oh, great question. Let's see. Axe tossing, chess and checkers, cornhole, ping pong, Connect Four. So yeah, it's a great event. Yes, the board is always welcome to attend.
I only play if they're the oversized ones.
I think Twilight Imperium.
And then I really just wanted to reinforce what a great event the July 4th celebration was for me as a newcomer coming in. I mean, the amount of work that goes into it for Jeremy and his staff, but also just it's all hands on deck for all the CA staff to make that event happen. And there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to really make it successful. So kudos to all the staff for making that look seamless, and it is far from it. And it was blazing hot, and they did not complain. They just get the work done. So I thought that was a great event and look forward to many more down there. But really, it's the staff that make that happen.
All right, it's going to go Colin, Ashley.
Yeah, just another staff shout out. I feel like by 10 a.m. on Friday down at Lake K, you would not have known anything happened the day before. So just huge shout out to staff for doing a phenomenal job of keeping that area clean and pristine and making it just an awesome, awesome event.
Sorry, this isn't a question, but I saw Jeremy all day long because he was there at the Longfellow Parade, and then he was there when I went and put my blanket down to reserve a spot at the lakefront, and then again later whenever I went there. So,
Which, Ashley,
phenomenal job.
You followed CA rules and you put your blanket down after 3 p.m. Yeah,
correct.
you would not
there was
have
hardly any spots
You would
left.
not have
Yes.
done it before
Yes.
3 p.m.
Jeremy was positive and doing a phenomenal job with directing staff. Yes, you were great, in great spirits. Yes, kudos, working all day long in that insanely hot weather. So, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
And then one last thing is on June 26th, Supreme hosted its second blood drive of 2024 in partnership with the Red Cross, and they achieved 100% of their goal. 32 whole blood units were collected.
Fantastic.
So I think that's a great service offered to the community by CA and the Red Cross. So
all right.
That's all I have. I just want to highlight those.
Karen?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the staff at the Thunderhill Pool. One of my neighbors was he had to do an exercise for his military requirements. He had to swim a certain distance, and he had to do it in his fatigues. And he had to take off all of his fatigues at the end. He had to do it within a certain amount of time. And he was at the Thunderhill Pool, and he was doing it, and he couldn't. He kept he was doing really well, but he kept missing the time. And the lifeguards walked over to ask him what he was doing, and he told them, and they explained to him that he was in a meter pool.
Oh, there you go.
Not a yard pool. So I just want to give a shout out to the lifeguards at the Thunderhill Pool for explaining it to that guy so he would understand.
Metric system.
Having grown up at that pool and knowing what the times were like, so I completely understood.
Yeah, we have the same thing at Faulkner Ridge Pool, so absolutely. Great. Thank you for sharing. All right, now on to more exciting stuff. State and local legislation. Kind of quiet right now. All right.
Everything is
all right.
Yeah, we're on summer break for the legislature. Nothing is introduced really until November, so it's a little early to talk about that. And in terms of the county council, there was nothing that we identified as significant enough that should be brought
For the Columbia Association. Okay. Thank you, John. Thanks. Report from the Inner Arbor. My Inner Arbor folks.
They are not here, but it's included in the packet.
Yeah.
It was provided to us.
All right. And back to the annual report. We kind of jumped the gun with all the annual report.
Hey, Bill?
Yes, Mike.
Just a comment on the Inner Arbor Trust report.
Yes, sir.
It's very nice. It highlights some anecdotal stuff that they're doing. I would really appreciate if Inner Arbor Trust could include some more metrics-based information about their finances and their ability to fundraise and how they're doing health-wise there. That would be very helpful to have in those reports.
I can take that back to the board.
Thank you, Reg. All right.
You got it.
Very good. Good comment.
Thanks,
good
Mike.
action. Thanks for everybody all around on that. Back to the annual report. We just couldn't help ourselves, and we jumped the gun on that. Any additional comments on the annual report? All right. Very good. All right. Proposed new topics. Anybody?
Got one.
Yes, Eric.
Put a policy on policies.
A policy on policies. All right. we will put that in the topic log and visit that at the end of August, right? Is that when we have our BOD?
Yes.
Yeah, BOC. All right, very good. Chair's remarks, just a couple quick things. The all-city meet, Columbia Neighborhood Swim League, starts tomorrow night at Phelps Luck Pool. My understanding, they sell T-shirts. They're very nice-looking T-shirts. My understanding is that they're pink this year, so get out there and enjoy. Swim meet lasts through all day Saturday, so if you can get out anytime on Saturday, come and visit. It's quite an entertaining event. Kids swim hard, parents cheer loudly. It's a really good time. So I just wanted to put that out. I believe the Columbia Kids Triathlon was just accomplished recently. So, and I heard good things about that. So good all around on that also. We are going into 6 weeks, I think, of the August recess here. So think on some of the things we discussed here tonight. Come back in September ready to go. Talk with your fellow village residents about the budget, about the strategic plan. Let's keep the conversation going, even if we're not meeting in this room here until September, okay? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That's Colin and Ashley. Any objection? No. We're adjourned. 9:10.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
I'm telling you.